We're on. We're on now.
Hello to our beautiful friends. Oh my goodness, welcome back to Crow's Nest. And it's Katie and Todd. We have managed to sit across from one another.
Yeah, right. We're good though.
Couple of weeks. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you.
I feel like we're probably very different people right now than we were the last time we talked.
Whoa, man, it's been crazy. Let me make sure the sound's good. Okay, there's three. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, we're good. Got Kareen's in the house, Stephen Hogg, Patty Soletto, Linda Hickton.
I'm going to meet Patty next week in person. I'm going to America. Yeah, we're going on tour.
Where are you going?
It's super okay. So, let's just launch into it because, I mean, the thing that everybody probably wants to talk about is all of this that's been going on. And probably contextualizing it within the larger story of Ascension and giving probably maybe some ideas about just how exciting the ground that we have been, cutting and co-creating is. We've definitely passed a benchmark in the collective evolution of our species, or the reawakening. And so a whole new wave of people are feeling the grit. A whole new batch of sacred knowledge has emerged. We have meteor showers that are just pumping us full of this beautiful opportunities to connect to, the trail of energy and information that they bring with us as they cross our skies that they have accumulated throughout their journey. And it's although a very intense feeling, it is an incredibly beautiful and sacred, amazing time to be alive. And I'm thankful to be here with you. All of you who are also out here doing it, co-creating.
Here.
Right?
Absolutely. Got 25 people in the house.
Where are you in the world right now? Oh, you're in Sedona. Okay. I remember. Okay, yeah. So what do you want to talk about? Where do you want to start?
Well, it's been 2 weeks, and it's been a real interesting 2 weeks. Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, we've had a bunch of storms over here. Signal should be good, though. But, I've seen a lot of people. Morgan wrote about it yesterday, but I've seen this for about 2 weeks. And then I read a post this morning by Rob Bin, Rabinn, and she was talking about, and I don't watch all that, the Pluto retrograding next 6 weeks. And it was all about, to me, what I've been seeing, just to put it in a nutshell, and people presenting it different ways, is like that split, that clarity, the telepathy is higher, the clarity, things that are not based on, creations that are not based on the intention of the heart are not standing. These things that are not real are just not standing. It's like the illusion's cracking. And I know myself, I've actually seen with my eyes, like the matrix grid slipping away or disappearing. I don't know. That's what I've been picking up from people. What about you?
Well, it's interesting because as you're talking about it, the great thing about connecting with people, and even though some of you aren't speaking with us, those of you who are connecting in with astral space, right? We are forming a collective of communication right here. And so as we form conversation and share from our hearts about these topics, I have one of the ways that I experience the collective is that I'm able to feel a whole bunch of the different strains of energy and relationships to the topic that we're talking about as they come up, as the people who are connected to us express them while we're in the focus of this communication. And so actually, I was just marveling at the scope of response to what, that was rippling in our collective about what you just said. And so, I noticed a number of things. So on one level, kind of contextualizing it within the technical framework of Ascension, we have experienced a wave of bifurcation for some people, right?
Yeah.
But we've also kind of moved into that space where it's also happening for our society. Remember, people talked about planetary ascension.
Yeah.
We do, on a pretty routine level, go through phases where we are cleansing, adjusting, transfiguring, transforming, and rethinking certain pockets of energy that are connected to the ways that we live. And so we are most definitely going through one of those periods right now. And I wrote a post this morning that was similar, that was not similar, I guess, talking about a similar topic, but perhaps from a different angle, was about how, in October, we traditionally rethink a lot of things politically. So I know you were very involved in the Occupy movement. I was too. You think about when Standing Rock started flourishing. You think about whenever the Me Too movement started coming up. You think about the waves that we go through as a light working community, as awakening community every year. And so, from a zoomed out perspective, I do see a lot of what is going on right now as a continuation of something that many of us have been working on for a long time. And what gets really exciting is that the more and more people who tap in, just like are right now, the more effect it has to continue rippling its way through the masses. And so for some, this is the first time they're stepping onto this in a conscious knowing perspective. And, people kind of get down on protesters or people that do whatever, various forms of expression. And it's like, you know what, guys, what is happening when people do that is that they're interacting with the spectrum of vibration in our environment and in their own way, or entering into that transfiguration journey. They're into their own way of figuring things out. And so I've definitely seen a lot of people stepping into opening their hearts to living in societies in new and different ways, which is very exciting. Definitely seen a lot of people cross the Crystal Bridge in the last couple of weeks.
Wow.
So many people. Like I'll be connecting with friends or clients or whatever, and it's, they made it.
Yeah.
A lot of people made it who had been working for a really long time, and so they're birthed into this new experience where the flow works all the time, pretty much, and so they're celebrating that part of life. And then, there's that other wave of people, and we could go on about this forever, right? Because there's so many different spectrums of activity that occur as we shift.
Yeah.
And then there's that other wave of people that want to rip their hair out right now because they're going through, working through some stuff within themselves. And I mean, like, I myself had a day, and it's not always just yourself too, right? It's like, we have been moving as a light working community into dissolving, shifting, and this is building on what you were saying, dissolving, shifting, but also creating entire segments of what was holding together the matrix. And so this ranges from the people going into the court system, like with me, taxes and passports. And I know you've been on that industry, right? But you know what I mean? And it's like yesterday we shifted something really huge in the financial industry, and we
I agree with that.
Have been shifting in and out of that. And so I think that's what maybe you were talking about with the dissolving, but I wanted to speak in a big round circle so that everybody felt included, because I also know that what's happening right now is that there are some people that are comparing themselves to the different waves of ascension that are all happening at the same time. And what I want to say is this: we're basically rotating now in a collective. We're working as a group. So one group will, connect to an energy shifted to some, and then they'll move on, and then another group will come and do it. You know what I mean? And for a lot of us, the process of interacting with this energy is also part of our training and our personal initiation, right? And so it's like the wave structure to me doesn't suggest hierarchy; it suggests teamwork. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's been, and like on the note of that, holy crap, there have been some people coming to me with some knowledge that they've been, that's ready to be awakened now. That it's like it's not mine to share, but holy crap!
Right.
We've finally gotten the vibration high enough that this stuff, like these star consciousness stuff that some of us have been working on trying to get visible, like vibrating high enough for years to get to the chance to connect to, is happening en masse. Like we have an exciting season ahead. I could just go on forever. Like I'm so excited. Excited right now about things.
Let me tell you what happened to me last night. Maybe this is because it just popped in my head. I just woke up. I didn't go to bed till 6 this morning, which isn't that unusual, but adjusting to this West Coast time, it's a little bit different because I usually start 5-6 hours after I wake up. But let me say this. So I just remembered. So I laid down last night and I was discussing all the stuff that we're discussing that you're talking about with Morgan for a couple hours. I lay down to go to sleep, and I felt this distinctly. Now I'm in Sedona, and there's a lot of different stuff going on energetically, but I felt what I knew to be an AI presence. When I say AI presence, I saw two energetic masses on the ceiling. I didn't get scared. I thought, well, what is this? But the next thing that happened was I saw a huge field of multidimensional, represented across the whole spectrum what I would call, and I don't believe in dark and light, but the good guys, angelic, galactic, mother goddess energy, ancient indigenous energy, everything aligning and letting me know that that basically this overall was that you're your own protection. Obviously, we're just an externalized aspect of you internally, but this is what you're seeing. This is accurate. Don't get caught up in the 3D stuff. Don't get pulled down by these lower vibrations. Focus on your mission. And then I received, which I won't go into detail, then I received very specific instructions and visualizations of exactly what I should be doing, which I pretty much knew. But it was like a vote of confidence and a vote of reassurance. And it was a very, very powerful experience. So I was very happy for that. I don't know if that helps anybody.
Well, it draws me to make this statement. Thank you for bringing me here. In times past, there's been more, this whole paradigm of danger and being attacked and malevolent forces is not really as relevant to the world that we're living in, even as much as it would have been, say, 6 months ago. Yeah. When we were discussing and describing the process of ascension and what was going on as we were moving through it. Part of what happens when you create and exist on a higher timeline and you get to that vibration is that is where you live. That is your experience. And so even though there certainly are pockets of energy that are being shifted and contracts that are being changed and gateways that are being closed and opened, I mean, that's still existing, and that's part of the universe playing itself out. And, that's something that is going to continue to happen for a couple of years now, like some time. We still have a lot of polarity and stuff to shift through. What happens is that although we might be aware of it, and there are things that we can do to shift it, if it is part of our light working duty, getting yourself to and connecting on that higher timeline ensures that nothing that is of that reality can touch you. The only time, and I say this with full knowledge, I mean, there's been a few people recently who have poo-pooed at me because I seem happy. It's like, come on, guys, just because I'm happy and I look like I'm young doesn't mean I'm an idiot. I've seen some of the worst things that has ever graced the face of this earth, and I have helped remove them. I have helped make us safe. And so I say, from the perspective of somebody who has given her whole fucking life to this, that we are safe now. Okay, and what becomes really important is that we go through our fear paradigm and release it. Because once you have worked through and transfigured your own connection to fear, there is nothing that can ever rattle you. It's not to say that we are fixing, it's like we are still releasing those realities, and that's part of what's going to happen for all of us. But nothing can get you.
That's right.
And that is the truth.
That is the truth. That is the truth. I'm
really grateful that you inspired me to say that. So thank you, because thanks, brother.
It's very true, and that's why I prefaced it and said I wasn't scared. I was like, what's this doing here? And I love what you brought up too about the community aspect of the different levels that we're at, and how it's a teamwork thing. I don't consciously do a lot of grid work like you do and have for so many years. Thank you, and so many others out there. But I did come to Sedona, and I was with someone, a friend of mine, who wanted to go do and has done grid work for years. We'll go to a certain vortex and do some grid work, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm not doing it, unless I'm moved to do something, I don't do it. But the thing was, we were going up this mountain, and the parking was full, so there was the road kept going up a mountain to where an airport was. As soon as we got to the top of the mountain, I said, you need to go over here. And to your point, I mean, all of a sudden I got the rush. I jumped out of the truck. I was taken to this place. I saw all these horrific things that happened by the human's perspective. It was all ritual based, and we all know about it and all this. It was about children. And I was directed to do what I was directed to do. And it was a fascinating experience. And I was part of an etheric team in that moment, which was very thrilling for me, to release these children, to release the hold that was on their souls, basically. And so I think what you said needs to be reiterated. There's so many different intricate pieces to this mosaic of this expansion, of this transition, do not underestimate the power of one unique and equal soul. We're all part of it, and we all have a role to play. Do not underestimate yourself, and that's important. I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, spontaneous service, which is what I call basically living in the flow. It's like, really about we are people, we're beings of light. And when we say that we're here to support the healing of this planet, the balancing of this planet, and, support for one another, as we go through our journeys, we are going to be inspired to stop. And that could be in the form of giving support to a person that we see on the side of the road, or, taking out the headphones when we're on that bus ride, and giving that stranger who's sat beside you the chance to be heard, or shifting reality, shifting a pocket of captured souls, in the case of what you were doing. And thank you, because we are still working on that, unfortunately. That is ongoing, but it is ongoing. Yeah. So we're working on it. And so just allowing yourself to be moved by the moment and to know that you were good enough. And I mean, there have been some people who have recently said, well, how do I know that I'm acting in alignment with the highest good? Because they know that multiple timelines are playing out, and multiple timelines can give you direction on what to do. And then there's people who are still working through the healing journey, who have shadow guides, or are still connected to old stories that maybe aren't of the highest trajectory of the earth. And what I see to them is this: if you do the alignment exercise of connecting to the crystalline core, connecting to your unified soul, raising your vibration and connecting to source, and just really stating, show me what is in alignment with the primary ascension timeline of this earth to do with this right now. You will be shown. Yeah. And this, to how you ensure that you are in alignment is you state the alignment. You take the time to do that. And I mean, if you do that every day in the morning and several times throughout the day, which is what I have been sharing as a strategy to keep aligned. It's what I do. It's what a lot of the people in my school do. You are brought to where you need to be, just like you were. You don't need to do it that way, but it's a way. So you're brought to where you need to be. You can serve as you need to, because it's like, man, it's not all about sacred sites and temples. There are energy collections or sources of balance or support, or even code exchanges that we as unique beings are going to be asked to do all around the world. And so, I fully agree and support your statement. Is never underestimate, because, me alone, I mean, sure, I can do a lot of creation, but I'm nothing if I don't have a team to work with.
That's right.
For all of us. No, if any one of us could have done this alone, it would have happened by now.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? We would have already done this.
and that's interesting too that you bring that up, because as I was going through it last night, I was like, this is trippy, because I'm seeing and feeling, because there was a lot of stuff going on, and I used to think that was external, and I know that that it's internal, and it's mirroring out here, right? But it's still got this team concept. You're there, I'm here. And that's what I did. When that happened, I thought, I really didn't know what to do. I thought, well, I said, I'm just going to align with everything. So I started with Mother, and then I went straight up, and I actually saw, just in a flash, how the universe communicates, what seemed to be what I would have to describe maybe as my highest self or oversoul self, because there was 12 components in it, and I just went to it was like the top of the tree, and that just aligning with that brought clarity and brought everything to balance. It wasn't a horrifying experience. It wasn't a highly imbalanced experience. It was really an affirmation, a validation, a confirmation more than anything else. And I think there's a lot of that going around out there.
And building on your point, I think that is also happening in our society as people continue to have the conversations about parts of what has made the fabric of our social lives visible. And what becomes very important is to remember to stay calm and to stay in love. Mm-hmm. Because when we trust that is what the outcome is going to be, we can take a lot of the fear. Again, moving back to this idea about fear, when we have arguments in public, say, for example, people having political arguments right now, which is happening a lot around. And that's, their way of working through energy. And let it be known, we're working through oh my gosh, I can't say it.
Sounds like a hard word, though. What is it?
Orion. The
Orion.
Orion. There is the meteor shower that comes through Orion that's happening right now. So it's began maybe yesterday or 2 days ago, and it goes until November 7th. And that's interesting in that it coincides with all of this kind of work we've been doing on in particular, working through the polarity and duality of various parts of society. And so, like, thinking about it, there's gender relationships. There has been the relationship of finance to the land.
Yeah.
Talking about banking, like all of these things come up, and it's helping us to express the polarity. It's helping us to balance that duality, or to move through, or say, like, this is where it is. And but when I guess sometimes people get very nasty about it, because they go into that fear space of the other side is going to win.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I do feel like, and taking it like the space stuff and applying it to Earth stuff, because I think that's very important for us as we continue to move forward, is like all this stuff that we're learning in our soul journey, all this stuff that we're learning about love is very applicable to the world around us. And I know that a lot of people in their bifurcation moment are coming up to this point where they feel like they cannot, like, they feel like society and who they want to be and what they want to live is like two completely different things, and that's a really hard part of your journey to feel like, because it's like, that's painful. And now the next steps are learn ways to take this and integrate it into what you live every day, and how you interact with the world, and how you, build your community. It's not to say that I still go to the same grocery store as everybody else, but my interaction with it and the reasons for going and how I make my exchange and how it goes along is very different.
You're conscious. You're conscious. Everything you do is with conscious intention.
Well, yeah, and your whole world, your world shifts.
Yeah.
Instead of having, so you're standing in the lineup, and instead of being pissed off that the person in front of you is having a conversation with the cashier, you take that moment to stand there and anchor love, or, instead of like, and it's, moving away from that battle perspective of living in this world.
Yeah.
Like, like we have this vocabulary about the world and even about energetic adjustments that is very war-based and almost like survivor. And it's like, dudes, I'm not surviving, I'm thriving, and I'm creating as I do it. And I feel like sometimes aligning ourselves more with, okay, so a plan doesn't work out, instead of perhaps moving into the for F's sake perspective, why not move into the, okay, something else great must be about to open up, and allowing it, you know what I mean? It's very simple, tiny little things that you do every day, but this is how you allow the flow.
That's true. And I think that's picking up too. Is like kind of like when we go through a little dark night, what we might call the dark night or abyss or momentary. We're starting to understand, this is going to pass pretty quick, and there's a big piece of gold on the other side. The other thing you brought up that came to me last week, I did a little meme on it, was embodiment, right? And I said embodiment, it's not just the human, owning the higher selves or the higher aspects. It's the higher aspects trying to fit into the human and function. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, when these revelations, these epiphanies come in, or these moments come in, and your multidimensionality or higher aspect dimensionalities, they come in sometimes, and then I feel like I'm walking down the street, I'm going, wow, I'm all this, and I'm in this body, and I'm Todd, and what's happening, Yeah, so there's a flip side to that, for me anyway, for so much of the time. And I realized that's been a big challenge for me, is fitting into this human life and and functioning. But I feel like I'm getting a grip on it.
It's not always easy. And it's, I have a lot of those moments where it's just like, you're like, so I live in alignment with multiple versions of myself, right? I'm active in a lot of places, just like so many of us are. And part of my work and, my light work is to conflate certain versions of reality, and or, I'm one of the people that's opening the stargates. And so that means that I'm doing work simultaneously with myself somewhere else, and that's how we line up. And what you'll find that for a lot of people, not all people, because that's crazy to say, but many people, you know, your primary guides are oftentimes other aspects of who you are. Yeah. You know, there are definitely sometimes beings that you have outside of you, you know, for help. I don't really interact with that much. Yeah. It's a lot of, you know, I definitely meet people and beings, but a lot of it is just me reflecting and working with myself. And so, you know, you kind of get to know parts of yourself, and maybe this is part of what you were saying, you are conscious of the function of yourself in multiple different realities, and also how those realities overlay. And you're just walking down the street and all the colors are changing in alignment with every thought you're having. And, you know, you're just thinking like, holy shit.
Yeah.
This is amazing. How did we do this? Like,
I know. That's how I felt last night. That's how I felt last night, because I got these clear instructions for me on the mission.
111, as you say it.
Right.
Right. With that, it's right? To support
65, that. 65 viewers, 111 comments, 11.
What is the reaction?
Yeah. So I was like, wow, you know, because I saw this universal representation of all these essences, everything. And I thought, wow, man, you know, because they were telling me, this is what you need to do, and you're part of the mission. You got it now. I'm like, yeah, I totally get this. But I was thinking to myself, wow, we are all going to just like wake up and look at each other and go, wow, we just kicked ass, man. This is like a huge multiversal. I mean, this is not just for the earth. This is for the whole kit and caboodle, man.
All of it.
Yeah. And they're all here. They're all here. You know, I knew that, but I saw it last night and I was like, wow, you know, wow.
So 2 things that are worth noting on what you're saying. Well, I mean, many of it is supposed to be worth noting. Just 2 things I would like to say. was one thing is embodiment, yes, and also bringing in the star knowledge and learning how to translate those ideas and that information through your body system into the earth can be difficult. You know, when I look back at this summer, I was not really on earth that much at all. There were mostly just tiny little parts of me that were here while I was functioning in other places. And now the process of bringing what I was doing here and through has been quite magnificent. And it's like, so some people experience it almost like giving birth to themselves again. Like women have a lot of womb stuff going on, and that happens. Or, you know, one of my favorite ways to anchor myself and back into this reality and how to get the ideas through is getting really high vibrational through walking or dancing.
Yeah.
Or, you know, the ever popular eat an entire pizza.
Yeah, you are my sister. You just picked my top 3 methods right there.
Right? It's like, I'm going to dance, I'm going to go for a walk, and probably at the end of it, I'm going to eat pizza. You know? And then like I'll smoke a joint because that helps.
There we go.
Right?
Oh, man.
Second part. The veils are really thin right now too, you know, and it's not just, and that's part of what is happening is that we are creating where the various forms of reality that overlay one another are becoming increasingly more visible to all of us. So that's not just me or you, but everyone. And one thing I think that is an indication of that is these amazing sky pictures and the light spectrum pictures that people take all the time now. I share them a lot. You know, and you know, you were saying, well, there's just been all this energy coming in supporting that. Yes, this weekend I took images that are significantly different than anything I've ever taken using the same piece and in the same spaces that I've been. And it was remarkably different. And that is worth noting. You know, some people get all up in this, well, that's just a lens flare. That's this lens flare.
Right, yeah.
I can make a science of examining this color, the spectrum, the size, and the location of my lens flare. It's about comparison. It's about various forms of representation and connection. And you know, there are ways that we can see that it is happening. And, you know, I've had ships come down. A lot of ships are in right now. All kinds of where they like dropping down in front of your house, like drag aspects. You can fly your aspects through this. Like anything is possible right now. And so how do you get to this? Because I can hear people saying, well, how do you get to this? Step number 1, brothers and sisters, is to connect into yourself and begin raising your vibration and understanding that your ascension journey is your awakening journey. And that as you raise the vibration, all this knowledge that Brother Todd and I are sharing, yes, we are connecting to the energy around us and bringing it in, But we're doing it through our body ships and through our soul stuff, right? So all of us have this amazing thing called a human ship. You can call it a body. If you're pissed off at where you're at in the ascension process, possibly your meat sack. I made a video a couple years ago about that phase of ascension where you feel like you're going to crawl out of your skin.
Yeah.
And I called it the meat sack stage because you're like, I hate this thing. Why can't I be home? I miss my family, you know, and it's that grieving part of being on this earth. But that, you know, which is such a part of people's journeys. And I noticed like Morgan was talking about, you know, her post and just all of the feelings. And then I could read the collective off of her post, and people were kind of in that place where it's like, oh, I hate this right now. Not saying she hated it right now, but there's a very few people that are our brothers and sisters who are at, I hate this right now. Why can't I get through this? And it feels like extreme agitation, and they're like, okay, so when do I get to this story of where I see my space family and all this cool stuff? And you know, become a student of this process in your own self. You know, yeah. I have provided enough material through these sessions alone and my meditation videos that you can access on Indicrow Energetics to raise your vibration, your vibration with new frequency tools. And like, you know, if, you know, and so it's there, but it is something that takes conscious work and conscious practice. And part of becoming a 5D plus human where all of this stuff is possible is asking for it, yeah. You know, and saying, I am ready to call this in. And so for people who are already here, you know, and who are doing all the intentions of calling in, you know, saying, I'm ready for this form of knowledge, or in the case of our abundance ceremony last week, we as a planet are ready for understanding and connecting to new forms and ways of sharing and creating abundance, you know, like all these new things, the new societal structures, kind of circling back to what we were talking about at the beginning, the new societies, the new ways of coexisting, you know, the new ways of thinking and being. We have to actually call that in as a group and continue co-creating in ceremony, but also in our day-to-day action. And it is through that intentional saying, like, we are ready for this, that we make it so.
Yeah.
Notice how fast things are making it right now? A lot of it is we are asking for it. Yeah.
I'm going to go back to what you said about the veil.
Yeah.
I went to a conference, and I'm certainly not making any disparaging remark about anything or anyone. I'm just seeing what I observed because it relates to what we're talking about. So I went to this conference, and I covered it for 3 days, a lot of it, and got a lot of film together. And it was interesting. There was quite a few speakers. There was a very distinct separation of what I would call empowering energy and disempowering energy, old control type energy, old paradigm type energy, and this new energy of a thriving expansion of what we're all experiencing. And it was very interesting. But the one thing that really jumped out at me over the weekend was how thin the veil was in terms of telepathy. You know, it's like agendas, you know, desires, I mean, are hidden no more. And it was like, I don't know, my self-respect or self-confidence with my telepathy just went through the stratosphere this week. And I thought, you know what, I'm not playing this game anymore. Doesn't mean I have to like call people out or anything, but at the same time, I'm not going to BS. You know, I'm just gonna keep moving toward what's aligned with my heart. But it was a very interesting case study, you know, that involved, you know, probably 150 people. But it was a really, really powerful message to me, and I know that energy's got to be out there. I'm sure, you know, with others.
Well, you know, sorry, I'm just shifting a whole bunch of energy around what you just. I totally agree with you. I mean. And this is also because your senses are sharpening. Because as your sense sharpens and as you get into your heart, it gets a lot easier to see what the heart of another form of communication is, and whether it is in alignment with where you're at. And, you know, I don't believe in call-out culture either. Or I'm not saying you don't believe in it, but I don't necessarily think it's wise to go naming names, because that reminds me of a witch hunt. And that's not anything I would like to contribute to. But, you know, every once in a while I get clients who come in, or friends, and, you know, they're talking about how energy workers are not disconnecting from them after they have done their energy practice. And they're talking about how like this energy worker, like one person was saying, you know, every time she goes for a session, it's basically a horror story, and she leaves the sessions feeling scared and afraid. And you know, that's what healing is. And it's like, I do look forward to the veil of that and for the shifting of that process to continue. Because, you know, when we come together, we might discuss hard things. We might be working on hard things, but the ultimate purpose of this, and it goes back to the word you use, is empowerment, love, and feeling that you know, like we can sell it with other people because it's useful. And I mean, like, yeah, I'll build a piece of technology and put it in your system if it's so aligned for us to do that. But like ultimately, all the answers come from ourselves. And I guess moving forward in ascension for many other people who are kind of thinking, oh, I'm at a stalwart, where do I go next? It's connecting to your unified soul or your oversoul, how you call it, connecting to Prime Creator and calling forth your next steps yourself.
Yeah.
You know, even if you come to a mission alignment session with a person like me, yes, I'll give you support on your mission. I'll support you. I will never tell you exactly what it is that you're supposed to be doing, because then that robs you of the experience of self-discovery. Right. And my job is to support you learning how to connect to yourself. And I do work my very best to always include tools or advice in these broadcasts and in everything I do to create, you know, like we are a team, and supporting one another is important, but so too is self-reliance and having the strength and the courage to come forward with the message that you are uniquely here to do or to live the experience you're here to live. Because kind of going back to something else we talked about earlier, it's those moments of alignment where we have the ability to shift or change or grow or help or support or build in some capacity as part of our, you know, flow of being here on earth. It's like you and I, we can co-create on a job, but we'll never fulfill the same function. We're blueprint genetically not the same.
That's right. That's right.
More about, you know what I mean? And so it's like, it becomes very important that you and I have the strength to be who we are, but to also notice that that's part of a whole. Yeah, but, you know, like you and I could go to a situation, Todd, and I'm going to have to do one task and you're going to do something completely different. Yeah. And what matters of our success is that you do what you need to do and I do what I need to do. And we don't feel the pressure to conform to one another or to anybody else's methods or technique. Yeah. You're here to be yourselves. And so, yes, there are standard benchmark things like raising your vibration, clearing your aura, you know, understanding how to call forth energy. That is a technical aspect. That is just like the foundations of how ascension works. But, you know, like once you have that, it's totally up to you to create new stuff. Totally up to you to create in ways of doing it that are going to be more meaningful to you, you know, like that's part of the fun here. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it is. No, I'm with you on that. Totally with you on that. You know, part of the message I got last night too was to your point about asking, which I've learned. You know, I've learned to ask, and so I did start asking last night. And you know what I got back was, you call the shots, Todd. So you need to let us know, how do you want this? How do you want to communicate with your ET aspects and ET family? As an example, do you want to see us in like a solid matter? Do you want to see us as an, you know, these are the things that are at your disposal. So I was like, right on, you know. And then the other thing about what you were bringing up about the clients and that type of thing, people working with other people. I got hit with a couple of people last night or yesterday that have, like many people out there, have a high level of mastery in certain skills or abilities. Okay, there you go. That's beautiful. And anyway, this one guy came at me and he's like, you know, you need to like talk to me and da 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 da.
You don't. I can talk to you like that. You don't.
Right. And I wrote him a note and said, yeah, I'd consider it if you remove the aggression. But what my point to him was is that the energy that I align with and the energy that I try to put out in the collaborations, like with you and other people, and any expression I'm involved in, is a real simple energy. It's straight from the heart. It's straight from the heart. I'm not really interested so much in all the dog and pony shows and the stories and the lessons and the skills and abilities. Yes. This is about self-empowerment. And I try to simplify things because that's just how I'm built. It's just straight from the heart. You know, your heart's not going to let you down. Your heart is a direct connection to source. I mean, it's direct connection to everything. You know, it's the center of the web, you know. So I think I think that simplicity, there's a lot of wisdom in the simplicity of the universe. And we've spent so much time breaking stuff down and overcomplicating things. We're on a mission. We all have roles. It's all macro, micro, macro, micro, 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 and it's all we're the ones in charge. We are the masters, and it's owning up to that is what I'm feeling. I'm seeing, like you said earlier, you saw a lot of people cross the bridge. I'm seeing more and more people that are starting to say, hey, I'm owning this,
One of my favorite things, I get to interact very closely with many people. And, just over the course of the couple of years that I've been a public person, I've gotten to know some of these people, that are in my community very well. And I have to say, like, watching them connect to and really realize how cool they are, and like this amazing story that exists inside of them that they're, rediscovering and living and creating from and through is probably my favorite part of the human related work that I get to do. It's like we don't want to use the word special in a hierarchical sense, but each one of us is incredibly special. And, each one of us has come a long way to be here. There are New Earth souls, and they are around, and their experience is just as important. It's sometimes different than the ones of us who have been here for a very long time, but that doesn't matter. It's just a variation of experience. And it's like, I think I've been really humbled by watching so many of my close friends and community members who have worked so hard in their journey over the last couple of years finally come home to themselves, and just how much more relaxed they are and how much more excited they are. And just this, I'm excited at what they're here to create, and it makes me feel so good. Several of my students this week had the strength to share things and, become writers and sharers in ways that they are meant to help shift various things in their own path of sharing, and here they are after years of self-doubt getting out there, and, maybe even only after a year of doing this kind of work on themselves, here they are finally getting out there all of a sudden, and breaking down that boundary that they had placed within themselves over 50 or 60 years of their lives. And it's just like the radiance of them and their expression and it's just like a floodgate is open once they allow it. And I'm excited because this is happening for large numbers of people in our collective right now. And it's like, think about how far we've come with just a few of us really realizing and doing. And think about what we're going to be able to manage here soon now with all of these other people are really tapping into themselves in it. It's pretty exciting. I have a lot of optimism and hope, faith in this process. We are doing a very good job at this point. We are doing a very good job.
Yeah, we are. And what you said is true. I've got 6 kids, and it reminds me of when a kid is a baby and they discover a mirror and they're old enough to like put stuff together and they realize it's them. It's that self-realization, and they start laughing and cracking up and doing stuff in front of the mirror or with their shadow. But like you said, and I think this is another point that was brought to my attention this past weekend. Some people, like you said, saying, wow, I'm not with you guys. And I said, in other words, you guys are like in PhD and I'm over here and I said, hey, listen, man, you're there. We're all sharing the same space. And just the fact, because the ascension it's not just like having a positive attitude, or coming into your own. It's not like that. It's all aspects. So we have to put these labels on it, and that's unfair, but it's necessary. It's all of it. It's the dark and the light. So the dark can be that feeling that you have, and I have it sometimes, like, oh my God, well, I'm not there. What's going on here? But just having those feelings alone, I think, is indicative that you are awake, you are expanding. And look, if you're pushing into what you're perceiving as darkness, there is gold coming. It's just the way it works. It's coming. So you got the balls to go push through these doors. You're going to have the reward.
I agree. And I like to call, dark night of the soul something different. I call it the illumination phase, or an illumination phase. Like back whenever I woke up, there was the idea that you would only ever have one dark night of the soul, and that was just this awful, terrible phase where your life was basically going to end, and you'd feel like you were going to die, and it could sometimes take several years, and mine did. And yeah. I wonder how much of it took that long because I adopted that perspective on what it would be like. And so one of my offerings earlier on, because, I have been operating from certain, like you go through an illumination phase pretty much every time you make a big vibrational frequency jump. And so it's like, like whenever you go back into that, like you're doing your timeline sorting and you're going through your review phase, all of those words that I made, all of the ways that I have recreated the expansion and the description of the process translates into that. It's like, okay, so what are you doing? You've had this beautiful thing that's coming towards you, but you got to get through all this dark or lower vibrational stuff before we get there. And that happens more than once. It happens every time you reach, like I was saying, every time you make
that's right.
frequency jumps right now. And that's part of the cellular cleansing process. Now, the first one hurts, probably the worst. And then after that, you get perspective and I think we've made this point before, those of us who have been around for the process for a little longer have more patience with it because we know that in the end, the good comes. And it can be very scary, frustrating, and disheartening for those who are on their first bit of it or going through some really hard stuff because you're not sure that it will ever end. And so as you're going back to your point, what you were saying is, yes, there is always a gold nugget at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And in a world where you actually connect, there's always gold at the end of the tunnel.
Absolutely. I got a really good question from a lady a couple of days ago for you. I thought, well, she needs to, she asked me on your shows, on your programming, could you address this because I'm confused, and I think there's some people that are. I'm a little confused about it. I think people have the impression that people understand exactly to the nth degree and can fully describe it. Maybe you can. I don't know. Timelines. She said, "What can you talk about? What are timelines? What's going on with all this talk about timelines?" I thought it was a good question. I don't know. Would you take a shot at that?
So first thing, pretty much any major concept that I ever talk about like that, I have made a video about. Yeah. So like timelines, review phases, all these things all these keywords that I just used, I've made a video about. It's in the library of 100+ videos, and there's usually a skill or a something sort of thing that you can use to help yourself move through it. So just so you know, if you ever don't want to wait for us, and it is an awesome question. So just so you know, if you ever don't want to wait for this, you can go and check out my huge inventory of videos at Indicrow Energetics or any of the, I've spent a lot of time making this accessible. So a timeline is a trajectory point, right? It's a probability of a set of events that are leading you to a particular end. And so people talk about a 3D life, a 4D life, and a 5D. Well, not really 40. 40 you're not really supposed to stay at. So people talk about you have a 3D timeline and a 5D timeline. Let's anchor the conversation there so that we have some kind of grounding.
Right.
So in your third dimensional life, this is the one that you were living until you woke up. You had a job, maybe a relationship, maybe some kids, and you had a certain kind of way that your life was going, a plan. You had a rough plan. Or, the way that your emotions and your energy was working within you was kind of aligning you to move in certain directions and have certain experiences. So like say you had those cyclical things that kept coming up over and over and over again. That was in your timeline trajectory of your life as something to deal with because it's something you were carrying in your energy pattern. And so your timeline trajectory or the set of potentials that you're coming into has a lot to do with the vibration that you are at within yourself. And what is your vibration ultimately formed of? The thoughts, ideas, and stories that you carry around that become the collection of you. And so when we're on an early part of our healing journey, what a lot of us spend time doing is like analyzing our human life and going through our childhood trauma, going through relationship stuff, abuse, the things that formed us for better or for worse, in our opinion. And we begin to, for many of us, it's quite remarkable when we release the pain of being a victim or forgive ourselves for something that we have done. And that allows us to start releasing these things from our energy body. And so, you know, over the course of allowing yourself to grow and heal, you come to this point, a bifurcation moment maybe, where you cross the crystal bridge, where you're kind of like, holy crap, like I see now, like from a place where you never saw any chance out of it, you now see and are experiencing and having the potential to shift your life into a new trajectory or a new timeline or path that is significantly different than the one that you had been living before. And this is because you've done all this amazing stuff with yourself to learn and grow. And you've created this whole new path that you can take on. And so whenever you're switching, you know, your timeline stuff now, and I'm going to say this, there are a lot of people who talk about timelines and I don't think they know what they're talking about.
Yeah, I think that was.
There are a lot of people that just don't know what they mean, and I think that creates that confusion. And so, again, I thank you for that question. And so, when I'm saying calling in your timelines, it's like as you're going through this healing process, especially during accelerated moments, you're shifting crap loads of stuff out of your system. Like, you know, you go through a karmic healing. Whoa, there's like 5 lives that had been impacting you for God knows how long that you just released. And so whenever I say renew your timeline or connecting to your timeline, that's zhuzhing up the newer version of your potential and calling it into you now. So instead of waiting for these big, huge moments of bleh, you do it on a gradual thing. You do it every day and you become a master of that. And so that's the process in a nutshell. And if you would like to know more about it, I think I have 3 or 4 videos on Indicrow energetics about it. So just Google Katie Indicrow timeline and a bunch of stuff will come up. I'm
actually
such a nerd. Oh my God, I'm a nerd. I just absolutely adore and love doing this stuff. I am an ascension nerd. I just love talking about this stuff. And I think it's so fun to explain it to people, you know?
I pulled up IndicrowEnergetics.com just to show people. And I took us off the screen for a second.
Indicrow Academy's gone slow. My pages sometimes are a little slow sometimes, you know. I don't have to do expensive hosting. But yeah, through that page,
it's okay. It's
all kinds of stuff. Yeah. And then I also have a YouTube channel.
I mean, if you look on this right side over here, there's a huge list of metatext tags that you've got here. But this is IndicrowEnergetics.com. And this is where she's got just a boatload of stuff. I don't know if you want to cover any of that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so I've been for the last couple of years doing everything I can to prepare for the mass awakenings, which are happening now, because it's very important to me that we all have the ability to access this information right now when we need it. And you know, I do receive exchange for services and training, and I'm not ashamed of that. You know, I do sessions and offer private training on a number of levels, and usually try to keep it pretty budget friendly. For those, you know, but I also do not think that the ascension is something that can be bought and paid for. So I always have community open spaces, and anything that you can get from me in private, you know, there are elaborate versions, but anything that you need to get yourself across the crystal bridge, that I know in my inventory, I have created a video about pretty much. And so my next big project actually came in over the next few days. So I'm going to write a book about collective consciousness and forming and acting as a collective consciousness, in the ways that we intentionally do that by connecting in ceremony, or connecting, you know, like how we come together and do the abundance stuff, how that works, and how we begin to really recognize that this is happening, and the collective consciousness of 5D Gaia Earth is the one that is steering the ship, kind of going back to what you were saying. That's a huge thing for me. Oh, and one thing I wanted to say is, if any of you are in the Massachusetts, I'm going to be down traveling through the state. So next week, I'm not sure if timing is going to work on process, but I'm going to be with Julie, who is probably, you know, one of my best friends, teammate extraordinaire, and we talk a lot about space. And we were thinking about doing some kind of weird tuning fork space journey and collaborating on something different next week. We're going to do something different next week, and I figured you'd be open to that.
I'm here to serve. I'm here to serve you. I surrender to the goddess.
We're going to be down activating. So the next steps have happened, and my job begins to get exciting. Well, I mean, it's always exciting. I love what I do. I'm going down through America next week doing some activations and turning and alignments at some sites that are next step sites. And so calling in some stuff for the next waves of technology. One of the jobs I'm most excited about is I'm going to some secret technology sites, and I'm going to release some parts of the veil on the crystalline structure that exists in the Atlantic Ocean. And Julie and I are very much responsible for raising and taking care of that. And so we're going to begin doing that together. And that's really exciting. And we're also going to be connecting to the notion of freedom and truth and opportunity that was nestled in the shores of North America. So like on the East Coast. So I'm from a lot of migrants came here, and similar kind of trajectory all the way down the East Coast of America. And, there were a lot of beautiful seeds of what could be that were posted here, a lot, these shores were the next steps in what many people viewed as the chance for planetary ascension. And so just as, Ireland and different Egypt and Greece and different sites were earmarked as important, some of the lesser known ones actually exist here in the geographic areas between her and I. And so a big part of what our work will be doing is going to the shores of some of the large migration landing sites. Yeah. And inviting the knowledge of our brothers and sisters to come forth, and learning really what it was that and also reviving that energy of hope that was so closely planted here, and beginning to use that as a way to shift the harmonics of our entire society.
Yeah, that totally resonates. Resonates. Now, let me ask you, so where are you going to be in the U.S. so you'll be accessible for friends?
So how long? A lot of people in Indicrow Academy are going to be joining me. They already know. So I'm going to be in Grafton, Massachusetts, and I'm hosting a community event on Sunday. Let me just I'm really bad with numbers, so let me just get it up. Sunday is it the 14th of October? Yeah, Sunday the 14th. I'm in Grafton, Massachusetts. Are you going to be there?
I don't know. I just got imprinted like something just stamped on my head.
So I'm going to be there. And we're going to be doing a ceremony for, we're going to, among other things. So in the morning, I'm doing a workshop called Architects of Light. And so you can go to Indicrow Energetics and check out about that. Afternoon, I'm hosting an open community gathering that is children friendly. Like I'm hosting in a school called Touchstone Community School. And so we're going to have a picnic. We are going to have a drum circle to secure something. I'm still designing the ceremony, but it's about securing, excellent education and like not safety, because that's not the right word around it, but for the children of New Earth to connect to their skills, to reveal their skills, and to, really cement, the healthy conditions that calling forth the conditions for the children of New Earth to be educated and supported as they need to be, I guess, will be the focus of that, because we're going to be at a school. And then because it's a school, it, of course, child friendly, and we're going to be doing nature walks and connecting to just the elemental beings in the area, because there's some trails connected to it. And that's going to just be an afternoon of fellowship. So I'm open to doing other things. I don't organize events in physical space a lot, because I don't have the contacts on the ground or the time to do it. To be completely honest, I coordinate hundreds of hours, hundreds of light workers, and operate and do hundreds of messages a week. And so I do spend a lot of my time giving one-on-one support to people in my community and doing stuff like this. So sometimes, like, the reason I don't organize these big expensive events because I don't want to. And so the way that I keep it down is people in the area help by giving me spaces where I can host for free, and they do the work basically of pulling it together for me, so that I don't have to charge, a couple $100. Like, I'm not that I'm shitting on anybody about it, but like, if I can charge you $40 as opposed, to just rent the facility and maybe provide some food, that's better for me than like going all out and doing a $600 or $700 for a 2-night thing. That's just not where I'm at.
How long are you going to be in the U.S.?
Well, that's a dicey question.
Okay.
So, unpredictable Katie, I don't have a ticket booked to leave yet.
Okay, so well then, so because somebody asked you, you're going to be near Philly, Sue Baxter Fitz. That was my point. If wherever you're going to be, I'm sure you're going to let people know. That's what I was saying. Because some of the places you're probably going, you won't be accessible because you're going to be doing the work.
For most, because I'm there in service, so I'll be being quiet. So my community day is then But if people are in and out and feel very much like they'd like to work with me, do get in touch because I will do what needs to. I will always do what I need to do to be in alignment. So if something happens and this alignment needs to happen now, we will make it happen. I will never say no when it's in alignment and it needs to happen now. So if you're feeling like a now thing, like I'm here to serve. I will always be there for that, you know? But just letting you guys know, like I'm ready to come back to America and work as much as I need to. I'm ready to serve, and that, and also in other parts of Canada, and this goes for the people in Europe. Just help me out, guys. You know, I don't, and this is kind of where it comes from. Like, I don't charge a whole bunch of money for anything that I do, which means that I don't have that group of people around me of administrative assistants, of secretaries, and planners. I don't have the capital to go and rent an event hall that costs $1,000. Like, I don't have $1,000 in my bank account, and I don't have a problem with that. But it does require my community to come up around me in order for me to be able to reach as many people as possible. Because trust me, all I want to do, I love being here and doing this, but I mean, like, my heart calls me to go from community to community, connecting with people, animals, and children, and sharing the vision of love that's in my heart, and just experiencing what I'm about to go do in Grafton. And so I need my people to support me on that. You know, help me get there.
And I will come. And if you, in whatever you just wherever you end up going beyond where you know you're going, or even there, if you need any, if you need some assistance, just like, you know, I found it worked for me as I was moving around to go through the network and say, hey, I'm coming this way, and the people that raised their hand was just off the chain. So we're here to support you. So you know that. Soulogist here to
support you all too. This is what it's about. You know, I just want to. I'm very strong right now. I got what I needed to feel healthy and safe. And now I just am at a place where I am ready to just radiate so much love and light into this world, and just connect as many dots and sparks as I can.
I have a feeling that in that region over there, because of how close everybody is together, if you just put up a meetup one day and said 3 or 4 days, 5 days in advance, I bet you'd have quite a few people show up. But anyway, I guess so. Next week will be something interesting. That'll be good. That'll be real cool. Is that next week or the week after?
Next week.
Yeah, that'll be cool. And you know, I'm open for anything, even if you want to do a different time or day, an additional show, whatever you want to do.
Option for additional show might be the one. So I'll think about it.
And I'd love to.
No matter what.
Yeah, I'd love to cover what you're doing. I haven't quite got all the technology down, but who knows what's going to happen between now and next week, because things are moving very rapidly.
You know, and I feel what will happen between now and next week is miracles, because that's what we've been getting.
That's right. I shared a post last night. I know we got to go, but I shared a post last night. It was about people that are magical help other people create magic. I said, be the magic. You know, that's what we are. We're the magic, you know, and the miracles come from the magic.
It was so good. This was good. I feel like I really just love talking to you. Thank you for a great show.
I know. I was thinking that about 10 minutes. I was thinking that about 10 minutes ago. I was like, man, I'm going to let her know. Yeah, what you just said.
This was a good one.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. I can't say anything. You already know.
I love you.
I love you.
Okay.
I love you. I fucking love you. All right. Take care. See you later, baby.
Next time we talk, I'll be in America.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll be back. We'll be back in 4 hours with Mayor and talking about the Goddess Gathering in Washington, D.C. On